recipe that we're going to make today is called Rootatouille. And so it's patterned off a ratatouille, only it's made with root vegetables. These are a series of winter recipes, and so these things are available generally in farmers market at the winter time of the year. So today I have sweet potato, turnips, cans of diced tomatoes, I have garlic, onions, I have radishes, and then I have my seasoning, Scarborough Fare, which is a product that you can buy here at the Northside Farmers Market. It's a group of dried vegetables, and if you think of the song parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme, that's what we've got in a jar right here. A little bit of salt and pepper, and then we have our olive oil. I've also assembled a few pans. I've cleared my workspace. I also have a very, very lovely oyster mushroom that you can also buy here at the farmers market. First thing we're going to do is get everything prepped and ready. I'm going to start peeling my sweet potato. What I'm going to do is prep my vegetables in a way that they will layer nicely in the pan and then have a nice presentation as well. The thickness that we're cutting is about the thickness of 1/4, and we want to keep these slices relatively uniform so that they will cook evenly at the same time. And I'm going to take the top part off the turnip, and then again I'm going to give myself a flatter surface to cut from, keeping my fingers, thumbs, everything else back so that I'm not going to be at risk of getting a cut. So we've got our, that is really a beautiful turnip. Can you see that? That is lovely. Alright, so we've got turnips cut. Next we're going to move on to the onion, and if you notice, I'm going to leave the stem on end there, and then I'm going to peel it, and then I'm going to show you a trick to make a diced onion go much faster. And I'm cutting slices this way, vertically, because I'm going to make horizontal cuts, and I'm trying to keep it all about the same distance apart from each other, but I'm cutting from the stem end towards the top, and that way it'll make it easier to dice. Because if you look at it, you've got all these different layers of the onion, so when you chop your onion like this, it's a dice. So you don't have to do any extra work, the onion doesn't get away from you, and again, a flat surface helps you to keep things, and you can make this onion work. Before you're even crying, you've got your onion chopped. Same thing we're gonna do with the garlic. I'm gonna cut the little stem end of the onion off. And sometimes it's hard to get that white or paper off of it. And so you just smash it with the flat end of your knife, and this pops right off. So there, you got that really easily. And again, keep your fingers back, chop your garlic, and then to mince it, I choke up pretty well on the blade of the knife like this, and then I take my knife and I keep my other hand here. There's no way I can cut myself. And I just start chopping and mincing the garlic. Got a mushroom. Every mushroom is going to be a little bit different, so basically I'm just going to take this one and just start chopping it into pieces. We're going to saute the garlic, the mushroom, the onion together and add it to our can of tomatoes. So these can be just kind of a rough chop in about uniform sized pieces here. So we've got our mushroom ready to go. And the last thing is we've got this really beautiful set of radishes, and I'm just going to take one of them off of our bunch. And again, just trim this. Got a little bit of a spot on that, so we'll just take that off just like that. Gives you a little tail to kind of hang on to. And we've now got our radishes ready to go. So these are our ingredients that we have ready, and what we're going to do is put them into a pot with our can of tomatoes, and that's going to go over on the stove. Then we're going to put a bit of our olive oil into our pan and add our ingredients to it. Our recipe does call for, where did my recipe go? It calls for 3 tablespoons of butter or olive oil. So we're going to put in about 3 tablespoons of olive oil here. And this will be to saute our onions to make them kind of translucent, a little bit caramelized before we put them into our pot. And then we'll add the rest of our seasonings into that pot. Now I've got my pan of hot oil ready. I'm going to add my onions to that. A little bit of the garlic and the mushrooms are all jumping right in. We're going to let these brown so that they will be not quite so raw going into the sauce there. And these are browning up to be added to our can of tomatoes, which are already heating in a pot on the other burner. Our recipe calls for salt and pepper to taste. So I've got a bit of black pepper, and I'm just going to start adding some of that in. And I've got some salt, so I'm going to add about... We are using unsalted tomato sauce, or diced tomatoes, so that you can go ahead and add the amount of salt. If you are on a diet that requires you to use less salt, you can cut back, or you can season it to taste to please every member of the family. So we're going to let this go for another minute or two. Just kind of stir it a little bit to get it browned and release some of the flavors. It also kind of cuts down on the sharpness of the onions and the garlic to have it cooked a little bit longer. I'm going to give a stir to my tomatoes because they're heating up right now. We're going to go ahead and put the dried herbs in. If you have fresh herbs or an herb garden on your windowsill in the summer, you can go ahead, or in the winter, you can go ahead and use fresh herbs. You're just going to need a bit more because 2 teaspoons of dried herbs are going to be a lot more flavorful than the fresh herbs, so you'll add more. And again, you can add that to taste. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more salt and pepper to this. So look how my onions and everything are starting to get a little bit nicely browned. You can start to see the translucency of the onions here. They're just about ready. I personally like to cook them a little bit longer so that they stay, or so that there's not a lot of sharp flavors, and it makes everything a little bit sweeter to caramelize the onions. And what you're doing is you're breaking down the cell walls of the onions and letting some of the starches get converted into sugars, and it makes the onion taste a little bit sweeter. So we're just about ready with that. I'm going to go ahead and turn my burner off here so I don't forget. And then I'm going to add that to my pot. Probably at home you don't have quite a giant skillet like I do, and I'm not quite strong enough to pick it up with one arm. So I'm going to lean it on the pot, scrape everything in. To summarize from the beginning, we've prepared all of our vegetables and we've got them a nice even chop. We've assembled our sauce, which we chopped the onions, we chopped the mushrooms, the garlic, we added some of our seasoning to the cans of tomatoes, and now we have our sauce. It's been heated on the stove, and now we're ready to start assembling the ratatouille. So I'm going to put about half of the sauce into the bottom of my pan. What I use is a cast iron skillet. If you have a Dutch oven, or if you have a Pyrex baking dish, like something you might put brownies in, any of these dishes will work fine for you. So now that I have my turnips, my radishes, and my sweet potatoes, what I'm going to do is start assembling them as if I have a deck of cards and I'm doing an every other one kind of thing. And then I'm going to place them so that they look nice in my pan. Once you've got all of your vegetables arranged in the pan, from the bottom up, we've got our sauce in the bottom. We've stacked, arranged our combination of turnips and our sweet potatoes in alternating layers. And now I'm just going to place some of the radishes in because they're kind of small and I feel like they would get lost, and plus this gives a nice little garnish for the dish to have your radishes on the top. And then One other thing that I'm going to want to do is add a little bit of extra salt and pepper to the top of this. And now, the last thing that I'm going to do before it goes into the oven is I'm going to add the rest of my sauce. So the liquid from the sauce, as it goes into the oven, it's going to steam and help cook the vegetables all the way through. So our first step will be to leave it uncovered for 15 minutes to cook in the oven, and that will start to get everything hot going into the oven. Here we go. We've got it ready to go into the oven. It's really a beautiful dish. After this dish has been in the oven for 15 minutes, then you're going to cover it with foil, or if you have a lid for the pot, you could put a lid on the pot. And then what you're going to want to do is cook it until a fork goes into the potatoes and it's soft. And there's our finished dish in all its glory. Here it is. There's all your vegetables, and if you notice what beautiful colors we have here, the radishes still remained a little bit purple. The sweet potatoes are beautiful and yellow. You get a nice piece of bread. You can sop up a lot of that sauce with it, and then we generally will serve this with a nice fresh salad for a delicious meal. And as we mentioned in the beginning, these are budget recipes. There are recipe cards available at the Northside Farmers Market, and they are designed to feed a family of 4 for under $10 for the entire meal. I did it! I did it!